What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle. We're going to break down an update that came out probably a couple hours ago at this point, talking about Butcher Circus from Red Hook themselves. If you see me clicking around on screen but nothing's happening, it's because I got stuff in the background like my notes and software and all that, so that's just your heads up. But otherwise, we're going to break down this update and then I'm going to give some thoughts because analytics is my niche. And at first I was struggling to think of the goal of this video because it's obviously easy to do the low-hanging fruit content where you just read a Reddit post or a Twitter update and then just be done, because not everyone for some reason can find @DarkestDungeon on Twitter. But then I decided to apply the analytical stuff to it as well, and that's where I started struggling. I was thinking, you know, I could be objective and give my thoughts, which is subjective in that way as well. Do I want to be as brutal as I feel like I'm about to be regarding this? Do I want to be nice? Do I want to try and be even-handed? Do I want to try and look on the positive sides? And I'm not quite sure where this is going to fall. I'm just going to talk about what I have prepared, and then I'm just going to see what the end product looks like. So that is what this video is. Let us start with this update. So Mac and Linux users, rejoice! You will be able to play the game within the coming weeks. In a previous update, Red Hook said that it should be here in a week or so, and now this got pushed back. Like everything else in Circus has been pushed back substantially. Whenever I've criticized Circus in the past, I've had people talk to me and go, Shuffle, shouldn't they get a COVID pass? Because obviously there are extenuating, right, circumstances, and that is a fair point. If Red Hook wants the COVID pass, I will give them the COVID pass, but I'm comparing it to other things that have happened recently, specifically the Temtem update. So Temtem's a creature collecting game with a competitive battle focus. That's the very short end of the stick that I can give you, or shtick, whatever. I'm getting too caught up with specific words and thesaurus stuff. So when Temtem did their recent update, it came out a few weeks ago now, it was a big update. And that was also a free update. If you already had the game, it was a free update. When I compare how Crema, which is the studio that develops Temtem, handled it compared to Red Hook, it leaves me wanting more from our favorites, Eldritch Abomination Studio. For contrast, when Crema dropped the Kisiwa update, which is their latest one, they had devs on standby for the first couple days, and they were just sitting there collecting bug reports. And as inconvenient as it was, if they got a really critical issue or if they got enough bug reports, they would just take the server down and fix it. Sometimes it would take them a few minutes, sometimes it would take them an hour or something like that, but they had everyone there that they could afford to have there waiting to fix the game because it was a big deal to them, and it was a free update. So whatever money they had already made, they weren't necessarily making that much more because obviously people were going to buy the game then to jump into it. But you look at Red Hook, who feels like they had a team of maybe 3 people on this, maybe 5 at the most. I can't see it being more than 3, honestly, the more I think about it. And compared to Crema, Red Hook gave us long bouts of silence, missed like updates, missed dates, missed due dates. And they just felt like they were being very apathetic towards this. I know most of their attention is on Darkest Dungeon 2 right now, but just because it's free content doesn't give you an actual excuse to handle it this poorly. I said we're going to talk about the update, and here I go rambling off into relevant but different territories. So the Mac and Linux users were supposed to get this ideally this week or next week, and it looks like now they're just getting pushed off. I would not be surprised if they're getting pushed off until Season 3, because it says in the coming weeks. There's no hard date on this, and Red Hook has been doing this in every update. They've been saying in the coming weeks, within a week or so, hopefully next week. It's always been these vague timetables with no hard dates until it's like the day before. And that just gives a bad impression from a consumer standpoint. There are things I could speculate on like the reasons why and such. You know, it could just be the situation in the world right now that's slowing them down. Entirely possible. I don't know. It comes with this idea that Red Hook said if this mode is successful, other platforms will get it, and that question is, what does success look like? Keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about it later. So we have to get back to this update. The thing that terrified me, right here. When I first read this, every red flag and alarm bell went off in my head. Season 2 will run until November 11th. If we remember in one of these other updates, right here, each season of the circus will last 6 weeks. Season 1 lasted, I think, 10 weeks. And Season 2 is looking to last 13 or something like that weeks, which is just entirely too long. Red Hook has said that any major balance updates, so in terms of character power, which is something Circus sorely needs, I feel right now, will only come on season updates, which means that the game we got on May 28th is the game we are playing until November 11th. To me, that is horrifying. You already have people that are upset with some of the things in Circus in terms of balance. You know, Man-at-Arms power levels probably off the charts comparatively. Bounty Hunter has a sure kill. The Sniper guard-piercing trinkets still exist. That's my personal hatred. Abomination can do literally everything except his weak spit from rank 1. Plague Doctor is still the worst character in the game. Zealous Accusations can hit you for like 10 damage a person and then stress you for 22 or 25. And then I referred to Man-at-Arms already, but the Bellobot is in fact out of control. There are a lot of issues in Circus that are gameplay related. I thought about doing a follow-up video to my improvements video discussing the trinkets themselves, because I feel like this is the premise of that video if I ever did it, but the trinkets miss the core concept of Darkest Dungeon, which is usually trade-offs. Like most of the trinkets in Darkest Dungeon, the base game, have trade-offs. You put something on, you lose dodge, or you lose accuracy, or you gain stress, those kinds of things, on the upside of big power spikes. And a lot of the trinkets in Circus are just raw power increases, and I think that is very just not correct in terms of game design. Oh, and I forgot there's also, you know, stun locking Vestal. There are just so many issues. I'm going between two different thoughts right now, but there are a lot of issues that are not going to get fixed anytime soon. And that worries me. Nothing ruins interest in a game faster than stagnation and lack of support, which is exactly where Circus is heading. But I feel like I have to move on. The next paragraphs talk about fixing the connection issues, which is good. That is the big problem with the game, so it obviously does demand a lot of attention. I'm sure that the team working on this actually had other things they wanted to implement. They probably had a lot of ideas, potential balance fixes and such, but then you have all these huge connection issues which slow down your development cycle. Yeah, dev cycle, there you go. So that is unfortunate. I am glad they're tackling it, so I will try and say positive things where I can. It sounds like from these two paragraphs that it might have been the VAC, so the Valve anti-cheat, that might have been the issue. Although when I played Circus, you know, this is anecdotal evidence, but I never really had any suspected cheaters. I don't know how you could really cheat in a game like this unless you fix all your dice rolls. I have had questionable desyncs. I've had games where, you know, I'm up big and all of a sudden there's just a desync or a soft lock. So maybe those are things that are happening, but I haven't heard too much of the cheating end of Circus. So if you are aware, or if you have like some footage, that'd be really cool to see. So please educate me on this matter. I do want to see what cheating looks like in Butcher Circus. The improvements they focused on were direct challenges and the connection stuff, and helping out the modded community because they gave the custom bot file and stuff like that. So I think modders can now access some of the Circus stuff, which is really nice. I think doing direct challenge stuff is good because I've done direct challenges and it seems easy. You just open it and then you like hit the invite and stuff like that, but it for some reason just still feels kind of cumbersome. So if they make that process easier, I like that. There are a lot of people that are trying to do competitive stuff, or like they run their own tournaments and such. My Discord ran a very small tournament very recently. I think it was only like 4 people, but you know what? They did it, damn it. And anything that makes that easier is cool in my book. I like that they added the desync banner. I think that was a good way to handle kind of a bad situation, was to try and make some light of it and then give people something free on top of it. That actually looks pretty cool. I do like the desync banner. Had to check my notes. And then the final thing that I do agree with, and I'm glad they came out with it very quickly. I didn't think they would. They had a very quick turnaround on this, but the party saver, that is a really cool thing to have. So, good job, Red Hook, on those points. Now, I'm going to do some critiquing and I hope people excuse me for it, but I have to be even-handed. Ooh, actually, before we go to critiques, so the last thing here, we want to thank Dan Porter, aka Red Hook Dan. Can I highlight this? Ah, okay. For their lead design work on the Circus. Dan is on to new challenges, and we hope you'll join us in extending heartfelt gratitude for their excellent shepherding of the Circus up to this point. If you watch my day 2 matches in Butcher Circus, self-plug, I played Red Hook Dan in a match, and I got completely trounced. I think some of that RNG happened. Hee hee. I even tweeted Dan. Actually, I tweeted Red Hook, and they sent it to Dan because Dan responded to my tweet and said that something like, that match was very unlucky for you. It's like, yeah, Dan. But Dan is gone. Red Hook Dan is out. I did not know that Dan was the lead dev on the project. I thought Dan was obviously help. You know, I thought he was someone working on it because he was playing it and stuff, but I did not know that Dan was the lead designer. This is more of a loaded statement than I think people are going to realize when they see it, because on the one hand, you know, kudos to Dan, thanks for your work. I mean that sincerely. Okay, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I mean that sincerely. Thank you for responding to my tweet. You didn't have to, I'm just some small no-name YouTuber. But Dan is gone. What are those new challenges? Right? Is it Darkest Dungeon 2? Was it just a short-term project contract? It could have been, right? Like a 6-month contract. Actually, maybe a year, because I think Red Hook was putting out feelers for programmers and stuff about last year. Probably like a couple months after the release of the Darkest Dungeon 2 trailer. So I'm curious when Dan came aboard. But the reason I say this is a loaded statement is because I feel like the Circus team was already pretty small. Like I was saying before, I think maybe 3 to 5 people at the most. And they're losing the lead designer. So what does that mean going forward? The person that had what I'm assuming is the vision defining look to Circus is gone. So what does that mean going forward? Who's taking over? Is it some other transient programmer? Is it Red Hook John? I don't know. But what does that mean for Circus? What does that mean for future updates? Usually you start cutting people when the project is done or slowing down. So does that mean that Circus is going to get few, if any, meaningful updates going forward? It could just be a contractual thing, but they're taking a small team and making it smaller. Which means that I'm thinking updates will be slower or just smaller in general, and I don't think it actually bodes well. Switching lead designers may cause some kind of conflict between the vision of the project. You know, the next person taking over could want to do a couple different updates, and then they feel like Circus is going in a different direction, or I should say the players feel that way. So I don't know, but this statement worries me. The mode just came out, and it's already losing its arguably most needed individual. So that's the update. Mac and Linux got pushed back. Season 2 until November 11th. Ah! They fixed coding issues, or not coding, but connection issues as best they could, and they're still working on them. Your direct challenge stuff got improved. There is now moddable file content, which is cool. And then Dan left. I'm going to give my thoughts here on some of the critiques to wrap up this video, so if you just wanted the update and stuff, there you go. I do not fault you for clicking out, I understand. Now I'm going to move on to the last part of my notes. The things that worried me about this update statement specifically was it compounded a lot of the current issues that Circus faces, and part of the reason I've been largely unhappy with it, and it's not just me, right? It's, if you look at the Steam reviews, it's mixed, and I think the recent reviews are negative. It's been riding around 50-50 the entire time in terms of positive and negative, which is not a good look. Things that contributed to that were, I think, the the length of time between updates. Red Hook would do this thing where they would say they're going to announce something in a week or two, and then they just wouldn't say anything, and then time would pass, and then they go, oh yeah, we're going to talk about it next week, and then be like 2 weeks, and then they jump in and go, yeah, here we're doing this, and then it's just like this very small update, or it just doesn't really give you the concrete stuff that you're looking for. When I see patch notes, or when they talk about updates, I want to see like the balance changes, and I want to see the numerical changes. I want to see the breakdowns. They did it for not Crimson Court, Color of Madness, because that was a huge patch to the base game. And that thing takes, you know, if you read it line by line, it takes actually quite a bit to read through. So it goes through and details everything on every character that changed. And I wish they did that for this. They're just not doing that. Like, they're not making big enough changes, or they just haven't done those changes yet. So I would like to know what their plans are. They have not talked about balancing the game in a long time, I feel like. They've talked about dropping seasons. They've talked about including new players, which is all good, but they have not talked about balancing the game since, I think, June? Maybe started July, something like that. When they talked about balancing the game, they said that any balance update is coming when the season rolls over. So we're going to be playing with the base game or the launch game for 6 months. Like I said, 5.5 months, which is just too long, right? You get that stagnant content, that stagnant feel. And it's showing me that Red Hook is not prioritizing this. So I was talking about earlier, like, what does success look like for this mode? Because they're saying success means that other platforms will get it. And what is success for a free DLC? It's not sales. Is it downloads? Because a lot of people downloaded it because it was free. And then, you know, a lot of them just got turned off in the first couple weeks and just left it. Does it mean concurrent players? Because there aren't many right now. If you've queued up recently, your queue can take 1 to 2 minutes, and you're playing people like 3 ranks above or below you, which is just not fun. You run into the same people constantly now just because the player base is so small. I would say it's only a couple hundred people right now if I had to feel it out. In my Discord, there are people trying to get into it for the first time, so they were, you know, stuck in novice rank, and they couldn't find games. They just straight up could not find games or get on a novice because there just wasn't anyone low enough to play them. So what is adding Mac and Linux and GOG and PS4, Xbox One at some point going to really do? You're going to be introducing smaller and smaller market shares of players into a mode that the previous group of people are becoming disinterested in and just stopping their playtime of it. So it's just going to be the same thing where you just have the small player base, long queue times for an already long game mode, same people, and it just isn't a fun experience. So what is success, right? It's not going to retain concurrent players. It's not going to sell anything, really. It probably sold a bit when it launched because people had to buy the DLC and stuff because they wanted to play Flagellant or Shieldbreaker and Circus, and Red Hook was nice enough to make everything half off. That was very cool. But that just leaves the question, what is the measurable metric for success? I don't know. As it stands now, I don't think console will ever get this. I'm sorry for all our console friends. I too am a console friend depending on the game. I just do not know when this is coming, if it ever shows up. The Mac and Linux delay just does not look good at all, because these players should have been included, honestly, at the launch. Maybe, I'm not trying to, like, be a jerk when I say this, maybe not the Linux players. I'm not, you know, a programmer, so I don't know how hard it is to code for different OSs. But I'm not assuming, but I am assuming that the Linux market share is probably very small comparatively. But this game should have dropped on Steam, Mac, and GOG at the same time. I don't see why it couldn't. It just felt like Red Hook was playing it too cautious, or maybe they didn't have faith in it. I don't know. Delaying it just feels bad, you know, you're just losing interest. Everyone's just losing interest while this happens. Everyone's already seen it. The big streamers, like the big Darkest Dungeon content creators, have played it and moved on. Even the smaller ones are starting to play it and move on. I shouldn't say starting to play it, like they're all moving on. I know I'm moving on from it. And at this point, I feel like Circus is just going to be something I boot up to play friends or people in Discord. This leaves the feeling that Red Hook is kind of disinterested or done with this mode. I don't know if it just didn't hit what they wanted it to, or if it was more trouble than it was worth, especially being free. Because you have to remember, they're paying people to fix something that is probably making them $0. Which, that's good on Red Hook to give people work. In this time, it's good that they want to do something with this and not leave it in a completely shambled state. But it feels like it's always been this disinterested project from the start. When Red Hook said that they have a different team working on this, so everyone else can work on Darkest Dungeon 2. That was welcome news at the start, but now it's starting to feel like maybe they should have had people on this. Maybe this should have cost $5 or something. I'm happy to get free content, but if it's free content like this, with these delays, this lack of support, then I can honestly say I don't want it. I would rather have paid $5 or $10 and gotten the full polished chrome, new paint job detail or whatever type of experience for this. People are likely saying, well, if they took people off the Darkest Dungeon 2 project and put them on this, then Darkest Dungeon 2 just slows down that much farther. And that is true. So it's really back to the point of why make this in the first place? If they don't really want to put the time in or pay the people for it, or whatever the reason is, why make this to begin with? My operating theory, and probably the same for a few people that I've talked to, has been that this is a test run. This is Red Hook trying to learn how to do online before they make Darkest Dungeon 2, because Darkest Dungeon 2 could have some online feature. However, with how this has been handled, it's going to create a stigma going forward. What I mean by stigma is anytime now, in terms of like Darkest Dungeon 2, you're going to always think back to Butcher's Circus. So if Red Hook makes DLC for Darkest Dungeon 2, you're going to go, okay, well I hope they do it better than Circus. If online comes out for Darkest Dungeon 2, it's going to be, I hope they did it better than Circus. This is just a bad last song to walk off the floor on, you know? There's the video. I know I ended with some criticisms. I hope that doesn't take away from the nice things I said, because I did try and say a lot of nice things. And when I talk about stigma and such, I do hope that Darkest Dungeon 2 has an online mode. I think that would actually be pretty fun, because like online PvE content could be pretty cool, and if they want to try their hand at PvP again, you know, so be it. So I think it was a bold step to take. I'm glad they took it. I just wish it was handled a little bit better, but maybe in different times it would have been. Who knows? Like I said, Red Hook has been kind of tight-lipped on this, and for all the things I did say about it, I did have fun with Circus. I'll check it out again from time to time. I still have a couple more videos planned for it, I just don't know when they are. And as I was talking about stigma, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to buy Darkest Dungeon 2, or all of its DLC, or play it for 1,000 hours. Most likely, unless it just completely sucks, which I doubt it will. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know what you think down below. It's fine that you disagree with any of my criticisms. Just don't be a complete jerkbag about it. I do like having those healthy discussions. If you have not joined Discord yet, please do so. I'm actually much easier to reach there, and there are a lot of cool people, and we have a local cult that revolves around an insect. I'm not talking about the stick bugs, so just be aware. Otherwise, keep it tuned here for more stuff like the future couple Circus videos, the modded run, and the base game guides. I have made progress on the Jester guide since we last spoke, and I may even work on it after this. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Join Discord. And I already said goodbye, so I'll say it a second time. I'll see you later.